We do live in an attention economy where our attention is constantly glued to our devices, but I thought it would be a good exercise for me in particular to try and consume more one long form content so that my attention is more focused, and two, consume content and media that I enjoy and align with, and not constantly be just consuming whatever is on my feed any given day. So this week I've consumed, I would say, some media that I personally really enjoy watching at leisure and for pleasure, and as well for learning purposes. So I'm going to cover anything from like a specific creator to a specific show that I've been really enjoying, and I hope that this inspires you as well. I've been watching a lot of Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown. This has been my comfort show the past couple of weeks, I would say, and I am obsessed. If you're unfamiliar with the show, you're basically following Anthony Bourdain in various different countries, and he goes not only to try the food of these particular countries, but he also covers the culture, the people, and it's a very intimate show that I think kind of breaks sometimes the like traditional barrier of of journalism by really sitting with the people of a given country and hearing about their experiences. One of my favorite things is how Anthony Bourdain is just leads with so much curiosity in every country that he goes to, and it really does feel like you're traveling with him, that you're side by side. And if you're somebody who wants travel inspiration or is looking for a specific country to visit, I think that his show, Parts Unknown, is a must watch for sure, and it's definitely become one of my go tos after the end of a long day, and I would highly recommend it. I'm currently reading Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. I am not far into this book. I'm on page, I think, 72. And so far, it is a really, really good book. The argument posed at the beginning of this book is how the United States operates under a caste structure, and this caste structure is based off of race. From as far as I've read so far, it goes into the deeper historical events that's kind of shaped the um, unconscious systemic structure of the United States, and it paints a picture really of the barriers that people face based off of their skin color. I find this book extremely relevant in today's very polarized political climate all over the world. It's not only in the United States, and it really is a deep discussion on how we operate within a society. There are unconscious and conscious practices that we have everywhere, in every institution, in every area of our lives, that shape our systems and shapes the categorization of people in a really twisted way, in my opinion. I'm going to read an excerpt on page 70, which I find better describes really the crux of this book. So it says here, caste is structure, caste is ranking. Caste is the boundaries that reinforce the fixed assignments based upon what people look like. Caste is a living, breathing entity. It is like a corporation that seeks to sustain itself at all costs. To achieve a truly egalitarian world requires looking deeper than we think we see. We cannot win against a hologram. Caste is the granting or withholding of respect, status, honor, and attention, privileges, resources, benefit of the doubt, and human kindness to someone on the basis of their perceived rank or standing in the hierarchy. I've been reading this on the metro, I've been reading this at home, and it's just good to read a book sometimes that is unlike books that you perhaps traditionally read. I read a lot of fiction because I do read for leisure, and I do really enjoy um, like fantasy and sci-fi is my preferred genres, but I am enjoying this book so far, and I think it's very educational as well. Next, we have Substack, which I forgot about Substack for a little bit, and then I started reading more articles on it. And every time I open that app, I always find a kernel of insight, of knowledge that I didn't know that I needed that specific day. I find the articles on there are so well written. They're so intimate, they're written by people who have downloaded Substack and who have written articles, obviously. And it's really like reading into somebody's thoughts and inner monologue, and it's very relatable, I find. There's something on there for everyone, in my opinion. Two articles that I've read recently, the past week, that I have loved. The first is called The Art of Kissing by Fei Fei. I hope that's how you pronounce her name. I loved this post so much. It briefly, without going into too much detail, it really just discusses the art of kissing and kind of how kissing brings us back into the present. It's a deeply human thing that we do, and it's gentle, it's intense, it's urgent. And I think she describes it in such a beautiful way that kind of puts the experience into words. And also, one really cool, cool, interesting thing that really stuck out to me in this article is how she mentions that kissing is a way of communicating. And I thought that was so genius because it is, in a way, depending on the person. Some people are perhaps more passionate kissers, some are more exploratory. And I just thought the article was beautifully written, and I highly recommend checking it out. Another article that I read this week that I loved was by Trina Daz. It was called Social Media, Our New Religious Order. This is a thought that I've been having even before I had read this particular article. So it's almost like a very synchronistic thing that I stumbled upon. But I have been thinking a lot how social media has very much replaced, in some people's lives, not everybody's lives, religion is still very dominant across the world. But with the rise of atheism and individuals who don't adhere to a particular religion, we do see this adherence to social media as kind of a end all be all for us. It dictates our moods. It's where we spend a lot of our times is on our screens. So it's really an interesting article to read, and it puts into perspective really how much we worship the internet nowadays and how we live in a very interesting age of information, and how social media has gained a lot of control over us, and yet we've given a lot of our control to it in a way. And I just think it's a really interesting topic. I would actually like to perhaps talk about it more in depth at some point, but yes, definitely recommend this article as well. A newer creator that I've discovered recently is Amber Akilla. I watch her content a lot on YouTube as well as TikTok, and I love everything that she posts. She follows the mantra, which a lot of her content talks about and goes over, is the mantra of being hot and having fun. And ever since she said that, and I watched her video on her kind of dissecting what she means by that, I've just really not adhered to the mantra myself, but I've found it inspiring, and it's put my own life into perspective and my own perception. And I think when content does that, you're on the right track. I find that her content is full of wisdom, in a way that's not very pretentious or telling you what to do at all, or kind of telling you have to do these 5 things to communicate better. I think it's very informal, like you are having a conversation with a friend, but it's also helpful in a way to hear her talk about things. She kind of embodies the lifestyle as well that she preaches, so it's not just kind of said, she very much follows her own advice and her own mantra in a way, and I think that's pretty radical in a way, and inspiring again. For instance, she talks about, the patriarchy and capitalism, but she talks not about dismantling it, because it's a heavy a very big ordeal to do as an individual, but she talks about how to use it to your advantage as a woman of color, and it's very thought provoking. I love her content so much. So if you're looking for a new um, creator who embeds a lot of these topics with humor and kind of a levity to it as well, which I find pretty rare, definitely follow her account here on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. Follow her everywhere. If you liked this video, please subscribe. I love you, and I will see you in the next one.